once for a wedding and twice for funerals. But this is not for you, as beautiful as I look. It's for my mom. It's in honor of her. We realized, about midnight last night, that today was Mother's Day? Somehow it just went, phew, Has that ever happened to you? And so I thought, my tie-up of the second chapter of Hebrews, chapter 12, doesn't really fit in well with a Mother's Day. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do Mother's Day, and I'll do this other thing, down the road. But it's an interesting day for me, and here's why. Our relationship with you to be your next pastor happened early in late June, something like that. And Charlie, he's wanting, you good? Come upstairs. There's a problem. So before we moved, I flew up here a few times to speak and talk and be here, and then, that's what happened. And 1 year ago today, I preached a Mother's Day sermon. That was my first sermon for you guys, was Mother's Day. Do you remember that? Does anyone remember anything I said? Something about Mother's Day? That's okay, about mothers. You remember Jesus on the cross, right? Remember the story? Remember what happened? Do you remember right at the very end that Jesus looked up? He's nearly to the point of death, and he looks up, and who does he see? His mother. Sees his mom. There's Mama. And what did he say to her? What did he do? Do you remember? Let's look at that real quick. John chapter 19. John chapter 19. We're going to read, or I'll read for you, just a couple verses starting in verse 25. Okay? It says, near the cross of Jesus stood his mother, which already is an amazing thing about moms, isn't it? Stood his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother there and the disciple whom he loved standing nearby, who would that be? John, right? Saw the disciple whom he loved standing nearby. He said to his mother, dear woman, here is your son. And to the disciple, here is your mom. And from that time on, this disciple took her into his home and took care of her. Jesus had a mom. We know that, right? I mean, that's not news. But still, we think that he was on the cross for a total of roughly 6 hours, and this sermon isn't about the cross. But about, give or take 6 hours. And it's getting to the end of those 6 hours that he'll die. And he looks up and he sees his mom. Now, what was the expression on her face? And it's like, I'm not saying that Jesus had forgotten his mom. I'm not saying anything like that. But in that moment, Jesus chose to do something so he would know that his mom was being taken care of, because he wasn't going to be there anymore. And he asked John, the disciple whom he loved, who was the youngest of the 12. And he took her to his house and took care of her. And there's a whole bunch of stuff you can read about that, about the connection and the wonderful relationship they had. But it always makes me feel good to remember that Jesus had a mom and that Jesus took care of her. That's a good thing, isn't it? All right. When we got married back in 1941, when was it? It's been a while, a little while. We were like a lot of young couples. We were new in ministry and didn't have kids, and we're doing the things that young couples do that without kids, you know. But a few years goes by, and we decide to settle down, and it's time to have a baby. And so we started and tried to have a family, and we had a miscarriage, and it was hard. But soon we tried again and got another baby, and that went full term. But in delivery, that baby died. So he was a stillborn child. And we got to hold him in our hands, and we got to hug on him, and he was perfect. It was a freak thing that happened, but with, I think, the umbilical cord and different things. But it was a tough night. And I forget, Janelle, it was like Thursday night or Wednesday night, something like that. Do you remember what night it was? And they did an emergency C-section trying to save the baby, and he was gone by the time they got into surgery and everything. And they came out and told me she was in recovery. But they brought the baby back, and we got to hold the baby, and he was perfect. Look at me, Anyway, he was perfect, and then we had to deal with that in our world. About a week after it happened, since I was the pastor of that church, my leadership said, Rick, don't feel like you need to preach this Sunday or whatever it was, Just you and Danelle take it easy. But she was recovering from having the C-section, and so she wasn't coming anyway. And I just didn't know what I wanted to do, so I thought, I'll go anyway. I kind of needed to be surrounded with people that I knew and loved. And I was telling a friend of mine about that. And this is a really good Mother's Day story. Just stay with me, okay? It's sad so far. We were having coffee or something, and he said, Rick, what are you going to preach on Sunday? And I said, I have no idea. I was hurting, I was grieving, But then for some reason, I don't even know why, maybe God took care of it, but I came across Isaiah chapter 40. You know this text. I'm not reading all of it. Isaiah 40 says, even young men grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. And that's what I preached on that Sunday in tears. And I wanted to believe in Isaiah 40. I wanted to believe that text would germinate and expand in my heart and my soul, and I think it did. Back there, the technology was the little tapes that you plugged in, and cassette tapes, I think they call them, whatever they were. But we recorded all the sermons and all that. I apologize for using the word secretary, but 20 years ago, that's what we called people. Never mind. Her name was Farrell Harris, and I didn't know this. Farrell made a copy of that sermon and sent it to my mom in Texas. We were in Grand Junction, Colorado, preaching for a church. I didn't know she did that. And right after that Sunday, that was what it was. And, Danelle came home, and you start living and doing what you do and that kind of thing. About a week later, after that, something like that, box came in. Big box. To me. And I opened it, and I thought, what in the world? My mom sent me this eagle. And I didn't have any eagles. I didn't collect any eagles. But when she heard my sermon, that they will soar on wings like eagles, she decided Rick needed some eagles in his office. Isn't this pretty? I've got more like it. It just bowled me over, you know. So now any eagle I see, any eagle on my desk, any eagle in my office, whatever, I think of who? I think of my mom. She got me through that week. I don't know I would have preached without her encouragement and her support. She was strong. She cried with me, with us. Of course, she was in Texas. There's too many, but it's still, she was in Texas. And she flew up when this happened. And so today on Mother's Day, why am I wearing a tie? For my mother. I don't care if you like it or not. The tie is for Mom. I'm honoring her. She liked it when I wore ties and suits in church. And she gave me this. And she gave me a matching piece. Then she gave me another one. Before long, I had a whole collection of this stuff. And I just adored them because they just always reminded me of my mom. Isn't that a neat thing? All right. So I like moms. Do you like moms? Almost all of us probably had a mom, I'm guessing. So I'm going to share some scripture with you for a few minutes, and we'll talk about some of it. You know these verses. You know Proverbs 31 about the kind of wife a man is looking for. This is just part of it. Talking about moms, mothers. She gets up while it's still night. That's not gone away, has it? Okay. She gets up while it's still night, and she provides food for her family. She opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. When it snows, she has no fear for her household, for all of them are clothed in scarlet. Now, I've been studying, reading this through the decades and through the years. I have no idea what scarlet does to keep you warm in a snowstorm, but there it is. She is clothed with strength and dignity. A mom. She can laugh at the days to come. She speaks with wisdom, and faithful instruction is on her tongue. She watches over the affairs of her household, and she does not eat the bread of idleness. I do that. Her children, get this, her children arise and call her blessed. Proverbs 31, Solomon's perspective on what a mother is, I guess. And for a guy who had 373 wives, I guess he had some experience with that, but it's just the same, right? We go all the way back to Exodus. Anybody remember a thing called the Ten Commandments? Honor your father and your mother, so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. And I get that for the dad right away. But the fact that the Lord on the Ten Commandments would put, your mother, honor your father and honor your mom, so that you can live long in the land the Lord has given you. Don't mess around with that thing. Isn't that cool? And then we just leapfrog all the way to the New Testament and to the second letter that Paul wrote Timothy. In 2 Timothy 1:5, Paul had taken a young man named Timothy with him on missionary trips, and there's a lot of good stuff in there. But here's just a verse Paul wrote, 2 Timothy 1:5. He says, I am reminded, Timothy, of your sincere faith, which first lived in your grandmother, Lois, and in your mother, Eunice. And I am persuaded, son, it now lives in you also. You go around and interview preachers and pastors and people who are students of God's word and understand it, and ask them what is the relationship between God's blessings as it affects how we treat our parents. We're back in Proverbs 23 now. There's only one more after this. He says, may your father and mother rejoice. May she who gave you birth be joyful. Moms, is it always joyful? Dads, is it always easy to do? But we don't count today. That's Father's Day. May your father and mother rejoice. May she who gave you birth be joyful because of you. How much does God care about moms? Proverbs 17:6. This is a little awkward, but you'll get it because you're smart. You're sharp people. I had to read it several times to get it. Proverbs 17:6. Children's children are a crown to the aged, and parents are the pride of their children. How true is that in every family, and how true do we wish it was in every family? I'm going to read it again. Did you get it? Ultimately, there's kids, there's grandkids. I think there's great-grandkids in this. I don't know. There may be more. Children's children are a crown to the aged, and parents are the pride of their children. You ought to see my dad. You ought to see my mom. You ought to. It's fairly infrequent that kids will brag on their parents to other kids. It happens. But I mean, that's in the Bible. I think that's pretty cool. How important is it to God that moms are acknowledged? That moms are taken care of? That we know of, that we think. Joseph was not around. We think that he was dead, that he had passed before the time of the cross. Jesus didn't grow up probably with a father for very long. But he was going to make sure he took care of his mom. I love that. So I'm wearing my tie. I have a lot of ties. I come from a church that was a tie-wearing, suit-wearing church. And I have a whole bunch of that stuff. And I just love not wearing it. I'm this close to just doing T-shirts and jeans, and that's it. I'm done. 15 years ago, I was sitting down talking to my mom, just visiting with her. And I don't remember why I brought this up, but I did. And she said, Dear Rick, a few months ago, we talked about memories. You said you couldn't recall much of your childhood. So I said I would write down some of what I remember. So here I am on Mother's Day, thinking of events as far back as 55 years. Our relationship begins not with your birth, but months before you came into this world. I feel I must start with the night we both almost died. If that sounds dramatic, it is, because it really was. Early in the evening, we had been playing cards with the neighbors, and shortly after they left, I collapsed on the sofa, experiencing extreme abdominal pain and nausea. We called for a babysitter and went to the base hospital. My dad was career Air Force. After testing, they determined I had appendicitis. And you know the rest of the story. Your chances of survival were almost nil. And mine didn't look too good either, because surgery was next. And I skipped some stuff here. I'll finish with this. She said, the day you were born was such a celebration. Not like those two older brothers. They're just, The day you were born was a celebration. We had all been apprehensive about what condition you would be in. And turns out you were perfect. 7 pounds, 6 ounces, bright, alert, simply perfect. Captain Dittmar, that was the captain at the Air Force Base. And then a head nurse, I'm skipping some stuff. They made you their primary newborn in the nursery. You know what this is? This is a mother's love. This just goes on and on. She talks about the day I learned to ride a bike. I mean, you know. You have these letters, don't you, or something like them at home in a box someplace? I take it out every once in a while, and I always cry when I read it. And it always reminds me that when she did this, it was a Mother's Day for her too. I always forget that it was her Mother's Day. And I just share this with you. You have your own stories and thoughts and ideas about all this. But I honor my mom because the thing with the doctors at the hospital, it got to the point that it was so critical. The lead doctor in charge, who was the captain there, said, we can save one or the other. But if we do both, if we C-section the baby and then have surgery for the appendicitis, the doctor said it's a 90% likelihood one of them's going to die. And he said that to my dad because my dad had to deal with, if it comes to that, which one do you want us to save? Tough day for him, wasn't it? And he prayed about it, but they needed an answer. And he said, I wish that it was written in here, but he said, I'm going to let God take care of it. So I came out perfect. And Mom had her appendix and was fine. And nothing worse happened. It's why I'm the best of 3 boys in the family, really, because I just want to keep honoring my mom. My brothers just came out like they're dumping trash. It was just, apparently it was very, very easy. This was a hard thing for our family, but my mom did it. That's what my mom did for me. I might not have lived. She said, no. Her thing was, take Rick, I'll die. Take Rick, get Rick out. They were already calling me Rick, and I wasn't born yet. My name was Richard, but they still call me Rick. Okay. What story do you have? What piece of literature do you go back and read and say, God, thank you so much that I came out and lived, that my mom stayed alive and was the kind of mom that she was. I had a great mom. Was she irritating at times? Yeah. Was I? Yeah. Thanks, Mom. It's because of you that I'm here. Happy Mother's Day to everyone. You're a mom, you're a grandma, you're a great-grandma, you're a great-great-grandmother, whatever it all is. We don't have grandchildren. We pray every day for grandchildren. Our daughter doesn't want to have one. Our son isn't married yet. Could it still happen? Yeah, it could still happen. Derek's going to need to hurry up. And, he's 83, so, no. So this isn't a sermon that's typical for Sunday mornings, but it's Mother's Day. And I just want to say thank you for being a mom. Thank you for doing it. Thank you for caring about these kids. Thank you for raising them. Thank you for being the kind of mom that the thank you for being good moms. And if you're not a mom yet, if you're not a grandmother yet, or whatever, I understand. We understand that. And so let me say it too this way, and then I really will be done. You may not have had the blessing to have a child yet, or maybe you did, and that's gone. Some of you, so very, very sadly, have already outlived your children. What a heartbreak that is. But if you, through the years, ladies, I'm talking to you, and this could apply to dads too, but I mean, it's Mother's Day and the flowers are wilting, so we need to move on. But anyway, if you have ever been involved in doing something to bless a child, in school, in kindergarten, in Bible school, in a sport, in an arena, in some place, if you've given your heart and your time and your love to a child that needed it, this is your Mother's Day too. Because they're all over the place. You got to have love for any woman that'll do what moms will do, and it's not even her child. So, happy Mother's Day, and thank you for being awesome people, okay? Hang in there. I invite you to stand, and we're going to have a little bit of closing worship, and